You're listening to the Otasso Outdoors Podcast.
Do, 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 do.
Do, 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 do.
They do this every time.
Do, do, do,
He's official. He's official.
He knew.
I like it.
Should have had Kelly do it. She would have matched pitch.
Didn't even miss a beat.
You matched pitch.
Did you see his eyes when I pointed at him? He's like, I can do it.
I got it.
I was so excited.
That's why we brought
I've heard
him
it.
on.
I've heard it half a dozen times.
One of us.
What?
One of us.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Otasso Outdoors Podcast. I am Caleb. I'm your host, and I am joined with my two co-hosts, Hunter Grishke and
Hey,
Reed Robinson.
Howdy.
Guys, if you're tuning in for the first time, you will likely hear one of three segments to the show. Segment number one is What You Got, Buddy? That is where we bring pre-prepared articles that the other members don't know about, and we read them and then discuss them at length. They can be as little as 45 minutes or as long as 2 hours, depending on the day. Segment number two.
Segment number 2 is our Spotlight series where we bring people in, interview them, learn all about them, what they love about the outdoors, and have a great time. Segment number 3.
Segment number 3 is our head-to-head game show style competition where we have one game czar that brings questions and the other people in the room have to answer them on their knowledge about the outdoors. At the end, we crown one achieving winner, and everybody else goes home with their tails tucked between their legs.
Usually me.
Guys, today is a special occasion. As we talk sometime on the podcast, we don't often go away from the pod bunker or on location somewhere, but today we are on location in the beautiful Holland, Michigan at the Doe Patrol HQ with Tim and Kelli Boetsma.
You had it right earlier. It was Bootsma.
Bootsma.
You're fine.
I got to
We
mix
even
up.
talked about this.
It's the booty barn, man.
It's the
I
booty
dropped
barn.
it. Guys, thanks for letting us crash your party here. This space is incredible, and we're just pumped to be here.
Yeah, no, we're super glad that we could have you guys. It's been fun just connecting, and now we're glad that we can finally sit down and chat.
Yeah, so the long and short of it is Reed and I for a while had been talking about figuring out how to do more for conservation in the realm of doe management. And we found a couple small organizations or larger organizations in the area that most people know about. We were trying to figure out how to kind of work our own angle on it. And it's really bizarre because we were just sitting there talking about it, and then out of nowhere, somebody that I knew had shared a post that you guys did. And I was like, Doe Patrol. I'm like, that's a pretty cool name. I like that. Let me go check these guys out. And I clicked on the Instagram. I'm like, wait a second. These guys are doing exactly what we've been talking about. Good start, Reed.
Throw it anywhere.
Good start.
The
Butterfingers.
fidgeter doing the fidgety things.
So I went to the website and I read the core values and everything and just what you guys are about. I was like, oh snap. This is what it's all about.
It essentially, you guys are like, if Otasso would have just done this and built it to what we wanted it to be, it's what you guys are already doing. And we're like, oh, why reinvent the wheel? Let's just partner up with these guys and get to know them.
So I went to the website and I found the phone number and I did a little bit of my sleuthy digging and I found Tim, and I was sitting there talking to my wife and I'm like, I think I'm just going to call this guy. It's like, he doesn't know me. I'm just going to call him. And she's like, okay, sounds good. And so I just picked up the phone randomly one Tuesday and called, and he answered. And I'm like, well, you don't know me, but here's the scoop. Here's what we want to do. And we talked for a few minutes and kind of texted back and forth, and here we are. So I think it all worked out exactly how it was supposed to. And we're pumped to be here.
That's God's plan. That's what that is. There's no such thing as a coincidence.
Meant to be.
Not with how this one all worked out. So I'm all about that. All right. This is about you guys. So we want to hear everything. So why don't we start with the spark notes of what Doe Patrol is? And then we'll dive in and peel back the layers of how it all started, what the goal is, and everything.
So our mission is harvest, process, donate, eat. Those three. That's it. Period. After all of them, right? They're prominent. They're all their own identities, right? So the harvest is obviously the number one part, which we're all hunters and we love to shoot wild game. Process. A lot of people don't understand how to process deer. So we educate people how to process deer. We teach people how to process deer. We get new hunters into the outdoor, which is the harvest part. Donate is the third big piece, which we're solely, our sole goal at the end of the day is to get meat into the hands of people who do not have access to protein. And then they get to eat it. So yeah, pretty simple, but that's a Spark Notes version of what we do.
So let's back up then all the way to the beginning. Where did the idea come from and when did it first start? Did you have something going on that morphed into this, or was it just out of the blue, you just start it?
Great question. 2020, COVID. I was super involved at the Boys and Girls Club at the time. We both have spent a lot of time just volunteering in churches and nonprofit organizations. It's just something we're passionate about. We just like to serve and help people as much as we can. And when I was a part of the Boys and Girls Club, we also had a young kid who was living with us at the time who just had a really bad home life. Mom was deported. Dad didn't want anything to do with him. So we had a lot of emotional connection there. Well, when COVID hit, they had an issue with obtaining enough food for those low-income families. And the Boys and Girls Club in the greater Holland area alone feeds like 800 meals a week. So West Ottawa is a Title I school, which means they serve breakfast and lunch. And those 800 meals, those kids then get dinner there as well. So they're eating 3 meals a day outside of their household. And on the weekends, they're lucky to get 1 meal. So I got a call from one of the directors and said, hey, we're running out of food. They were doing drop-off locations. The school had a drop-off location as well. But these kids don't have access to cars. They don't even know how to ride bikes. They might have a single parent kind of situation who doesn't have a vehicle either to get the food. So the Boys and Girls Club was driving around to these kids' places and dropping off like little care packages with food. And they're like, we're running out of food. We don't have any protein left. Can you help out? I know you're filled with ideas, and I love ideas. I was a marketing major, so that's just where I'm at in life and whatnot. But we, so then I was talking to Kelly. I was like, why don't I just ask some of my buddies if they want to just go shoot some doe? Like late doe season was coming up. And the long and short in that was, I was at work and the message that I heard was, you're not doing enough. So I had reached out to a few partners or friends of mine that I'd known in the outdoor world and said, hey, what do you think of this idea? There's not a whole lot of like doe competitions or like doe shoots out there. And they loved it. And then later on, I was hearing yet again, you're not doing enough. Like I was sitting at work doing my mundane task, and I heard the actual words, like someone spoke to me, you're not doing enough. And I was like, okay, God, I'm listening. And so that's how it all began and how it transpired. In the first year, we donated like 600 pounds of meat and provided enough protein for all the Boys and Girls Club kids that year. And then we also started raising funds for other nonprofit organizations as well, just because we had the vessel to be able to do it. That's not our mission or our goal. It's not even in our mission statement, but it's kind of a bonus of what we do. People are generous. So
I love it. How many organizations you guys work with now? Like how long has it been operating? So it's since 2020, right?
Yeah.
That's when you guys rolled it out. How much growth have you seen since then?
A lot, like doubled every year.
Okay.
Holy cow.
So we doubled every year, but the amount of actual pounds of meat this year did not double, but we focused on processing it all ourselves. So we've doubled the amount that we process every year. We've actually taken in less meat that was already pre-processed. So we also take in meat, like if you had a freezer that was full and you shot 3 deer this year and you had all that excess meat sitting in there and you didn't know what to do with it because you had all this new meat, you'd give it to us and we distribute it to pantries locally in the greater Grand Rapids region. So
what's the process like as far as partnering with these nonprofits and these ministries? How did you get in the door with? I know you said you worked with the Boys and Girls Club, but what was the approach of the other ministries that you work with? How did that all start?
So the Boys and Girls Club, we partnered with them the first 2 years. And that really just started through the relationship that Tim had with the Boys and Girls Club. Our first year, we also partnered with Sports Persons Ministry. At the time, they were international, but now it's just Sports Persons Ministry. And Tim had known Ross Grabeling, the executive director there, for quite a while. And so their mission aligned pretty closely with what we were trying to do at that time and what we're still trying to do. So that just felt right to have them be one of our financial beneficiaries that year. And that's carried on. We've continued to donate funds to them.
And we only donate for our event. So
Correct.
We're
Yep.
not a 501c3. So we're a business that
Does a
donates meat, and we have an event that raises funds. And then those funds go directly to the 501c3s.
Gotcha.
So,
In sport, to piggyback, sorry to
No, it's
interrupt
okay.
you, to piggyback off of sports persons, like their mission is to put outdoor ministries in churches, educate those about the outdoors, get new hunters into the outdoors. They're the largest, I want to say in the state, but don't quote me on that, the largest bass fishing tournaments for high school kids. They had 80 boats at all of their tournaments this year.
Good night.
Wow.
80 boats.
That's great.
So, and then in that, they're able to speak into them at the end, the way in, and they have a little devotional that he'll do, and he prays over everybody. So that's his way to be able to kind of step into that biblical aspect of what he's doing in his mission. So he speaks a lot at different churches and fundraisers and stuff like that as well. They do a lot of wild game dinners and hunters education, and they actually just started doing Hunters 101, Hunters 102. So, because like we know that entry to hunting is really difficult. So that's part of our mission, and yours is getting new people into the outdoors, and that's theirs. So that's why they started a Hunters 101 course. You can sign up, and they teach you how to set up for a tree stand, how to look for where to even put a tree stand, how are you going to scout in the woods and the public lands, how to shoot a bow, how to field dress a deer, all of those things. And then when turkey season comes around, it's the same thing over and over again. So really, really, really cool ministry. And that's a big part of why we partnered with them, was because of their mission just aligns perfectly with ours.
Have you guys run into any problems as far as meat donation goes? I know there's some really fine lines there with the FDA and with like the giving away of meat.
No, we haven't yet. I think we've kind of flown under the radar a little bit. You know, we have. I'm in the food industry, so I understand the food safety aspect of everything, which kind of benefits us a little bit there. But we aren't like a registered processor or anything, and nonprofits actually don't. They take donations. So just like your secondhand clothes, that the government doesn't need to say, okay, well, they don't have any rips in the clothes, you can't take them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Does that make sense?
Right.
So they can take anything that benefits them to a degree. Now that's something that I haven't really dove into and been like, okay, could they get in trouble for taking this processed meat? Because I don't think they can, because whether it comes from a licensed processor or not, it says all they do is put a label on it that says you can't sell this, like not for resale, right? Like all your wild game comes back and it says not for resale.
There's, in my mind, there's no difference between like me just taking the leftover stuff that I've got and giving it to a friend. I don't think it matters necessarily who's accepting it.
100%.
And ultimately, like this year, we partnered with Matthew's House Ministry in Grand Rapids, and they were the recipient of all of the meat that we had processed and donated. And we got to go on a tour there and see the facility and see like what they provide for people in the greater Grand Rapids area. And they opened one of the freezers just to show us like, this is where we store all of our frozen goods and our food and X, Y, and Z and whatever. And I glanced in there and I saw a package of expired chicken from Target. And that was like just a really big push on my heart of like, oh my word, there are these people that they're coming here for meals and they're using what they can get their hands on, right? I mean, being a nonprofit, like you use the goods that you're given. And so seeing that like really pushed us even harder to like reach that goal of providing enough meat for this ministry, knowing that these people needed not just any protein, but a good source of protein. And so like, not only are we really particular when people bring in donations, but also like as we're cutting up meat, like I will say we have a great group of majority guys. We've had a handful of ladies, but a majority of guys that like are like, hey, this meat doesn't look great or doesn't smell great. And like, unfortunately, we have had to toss out meat. We have had to be
We've thrown away a full deer.
very conscious of that, because you are giving this meat to people who are homeless. Like, you don't want them to be on the side of the road getting sick because of the food that we had given. So we are very particular.
There's a very big issue in the outdoor industry to field preparation after the harvest and how to take care of your game. And even just like the hanging of your deer and the temperatures that it needs to be in, it is just as strict as your beef. I mean, it's crazy how fast some venison can go rancid.
So what are your ideals? Like, if you are going to have a deer come in here that somebody wants to donate, what do you want to know from the person bringing it in that was done before it touched the booty barn?
I usually know.
Booty.
Booty. You said it right,
Booty?
right on.
Oh,
it.
sweet. Okay.
I usually know how they took care of it when the deer comes in. So I don't even need to know. I know when it comes in.
But like, what are your standards? What do you want to know?
So like my biggest pet peeve is actually the fact that I don't feel like people actually know how to gut a deer properly.
That checks out.
And I got told, I think, at least half a dozen times this year, like, you need to do a how-to video. Like, I'm like, that just doesn't seem like I should need to do that. And they're like, well, you need to. Do you see how many deer that came in? Like, we had deer come in with, like, a buck was donated, and it still had its lower unit attached. Like, no joke. Like, piss sacks still underneath or in the cavity right there. Like,
so like, what are the biggest sins that you see that you're like, okay, this is an exceptional job versus like, no, I don't want to see this come in.
So, and this is a preference, right? So I'm not an expert. I'm self-taught. I've done some research, and I've learned from a couple people on how to cut up deer and how to prepare deer and stuff. But like, I taught myself how to process wild game, and in the turn of that, we've been able to teach a couple dozen plus people how to also do that. And, you know, I'm a big believer in the whole, was that it's not Chinese. You teach a man to fish, he eats, or give a man a fish, he eats for a day.
Proverb.
Yeah, the proverb.
Yeah.
Teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime, right? Versus giving him a fish. And
teach a man to fish, he'll go broke for a lifetime.
Teach a man to hunt, he will.
Especially on Lake Charlevoix.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, he'll go starving and broke, and his wife will hate him.
Yeah, so answer that question. If you don't know how to gut a deer, go online, watch a video on how to properly gut a deer. Make sure every single piece of the internals are out, the lungs, the liver, the heart, the guts. If you shot a deer in the guts, you have got to rinse that deer out. Like, some people are anti-rinsing meat. Some people are soak it in salt water, right? Like, I'm not for that personally at all. I think that's a little crazy because your meat turns colors and whatever. I'm a big proponent for dry aging, but
ooh, I like that.
Yeah, I got 2 hindquarters that I'm going to age for probably a month and a half. So
nice.
That's
pretty
cool.
Stoked. We did that.
Do you like cooking with dry age stuff?
We haven't done a ton of that.
Yeah, not necessarily.
So when I dry age, well, we dry age everything. So it's all in the cooler, right? It's got a fan in there running all the time. That's all. Our whole deer's dry age, but like, I've extended that age. Last year I did a 60-day dry on 2 rear hindquarters. And I haven't even gotten time to cook them yet, because I'm going to do a full pulled pork style smoke on the whole hind corner.
Let's go.
That sounds so good right now.
But to kind of finalize that, it's learn how to gut the deer properly. You do not need to cut all of the loose skin or the flaps that you would say that get in your way while you're gutting. Do not cut that all open to expose the meat so it can cool down faster. If you're not in cool enough situation, if you're not in a cool enough area, if the temperatures are in 46 plus degrees, you need to get a bag of ice and slide it in the chest. You do not need to open it up so it can cool down quicker. It doesn't matter how fast it cool down. What matters is that it's not getting hot and spoiling, right? And that's the biggest thing. It's get that deer, once it is that stage of there's no longer body temperature left in it, now cool it down. And whether that's in a dry area that you can hang it, or you don't have that convenience, you can throw a bag of ice in it. When we were in Canada on our bear hunt, the guy has tons of milk jugs frozen solid with water, and he stuffs them all over the place. And he's got little like 1 liter pop bottles or water bottles. They'll stick under the armpits and all around the deer, pretty much cover the deer with ice so that it keeps all that body temperature down. Otherwise, parts of the deer can still go sour. So that'd be the two things: is understanding your temperatures and then making sure you know how to gut the deer. Because if you leave guts, we cut around so much meat that goes bad because all of that bacteria is growing in the meat. And I just don't think people realize fully like how much crap processors have to go through. Like I could never do that for a living.
I can't imagine.
It was dumb near a living this year without making any money because we did 104 deer.
You bought yourself a job.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a hobby. It's donating my time. Yeah.
So you guys live in a quasi, I would call, suburban area here. What do your neighbors think about having pickup trucks showing up constantly, people shooting in the front yard, deer being unloaded? Like, how's that? How's that?
I don't think they mind at all. I think they are used to the craziness, that they almost enjoy it because it's like entertainment for them. Like our neighbors, we've got a wide variety of neighbors, but I think they find
names for all of them.
Yeah. They gave themselves nicknames. When we moved in, we learned the nicknames. Like,
For the neighbors?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Willing to share any of them?
Oh, yeah. We got Steve.
Steve is awesome, and he buys our kids Christmas presents.
Yeah,
he's so
that's
nice. And he buys giant
Santa
bags.
Steve.
He buys giant bags of candy for Halloween just for our children, and we go and
Does
we
he
trick
give
or
them
treat.
Schnickers?
I
No,
wish.
he give them.
That would make more sense.
Reese's Pieces?
I don't think he knows his name is Steve.
No, I think
He's
some of our
he-
neighbors know their nicknames, but not all of them. But
Yeah, and then we got Smiley next door. He's never not smiling.
He's so
I actually
nice.
hunt one of his. He's a farmer, so Mike's his name, but he's awesome. Super generous family. He's never not in a good mood. Dude's smiling 24/7. So actually somebody else gave him that nickname, Smiley. And then we got Crazy Mike across the road. We got a lot of mics. We got 3 mics.
we got 3 Mikes and 3 Steves.
That's why you need nicknames.
Yes.
Otherwise, we don't know who we're talking about.
Yep.
So, but yeah, Steve's great. He's retired.
He'll sometimes just stop over
Oh,
with,
yeah.
with a beer in his pocket,
Yep.
ready to
He'll
hang.
ask me if I want to have a beer, and then I'll be like, yeah, sure. Let's go out to the barn. I'll grab you a beer, and he'll just whip it out of his pocket.
He comes prepared.
Ready to go.
Oh
Yeah. But they definitely.
I don't think they actually
They don't-
also know what we're doing. Like we
There's truth
had
to that.
2 people come up to me after, or like mid season. They're like, "So I saw you on Wood TV. You guys are on the news. I didn't know you guys were doing that." I'm like, "Yeah, man, 4 years in a row. It's sick."
You're an A+ for flying under the
Kind of
radar.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
I don't know, because it's not about us. So yeah, the only thing that I think we could ruffle some feathers with is we finally got a dumpster this year, and we had
Oh boy.
and luckily we got the dumpster end of November, and we had like 3 days over 50 degrees. Otherwise it was all cold enough that nothing got stinky, but a few of my neighbors could end up being like, "Oh my goodness, it smells like a landfill around here."
Especially the guy coming to pick it up.
Oh, he doesn't care. He's a trash
He's
guy.
used to it. At that point. Yeah.
I know there's a fine line between like trash and then deer parts and diapers. Just
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was nervous that it was going to get rancid around here, and fortunately it did not. So we'll see how next year goes, though.
hopefully we get some cold weather next year.
The whole season, that would be great.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right. So how can people get involved with what you guys are doing, whether it's on a local level, whether it's just a donation level? Like, talk to us about that. Like, what are the goals for growth? Like, how can people get involved?
So growth, we have some exciting news that's going to be coming. So I guess what I can share as of now is there's an expansion happening, and we're going to be growing. And the furthest that I'm going to go with sharing this information is Doe Patrol East Michigan / Doe Patrol Detroit will be a thing next year. And we are super stoked about that.
That's awesome.
Which then means hopefully there's
We got to fill
Southern Michigan, Northern Michigan, Central Michigan.
sounds like we need to fill in the gap.
So that's a potential for growth from that standpoint. But for us, it's the education and understanding that a lot of people do not understand. You can shoot deer and donate them, so their season's over once their freezer's full. So do your due diligence. Reach out to your processors. See if they take game. There's a few processors out there throughout the state that will take donations. Now, some of them still want you to pay $30 for processing fees, which is really not necessarily a donation, and that kind of grinds my gears a little bit. But a lot of it's because of the what's it called? Michigan Outdoorsmen Against Hunger. They're all donation based. So
right.
It all depends on how many deer are donated at the end of the year. They do the numbers, run the math, and then they write a check to the processors for how many deer they had come in. So they could get $85 a deer, or they could get $25 a deer. All depends on how many are donated. But donations are really low. And processors currently right now don't like, a lot of them in this area at least, don't like taking them because it pulls away from their profitability at the end of the year, and it takes time to process them, and they don't get enough funneling back to them. So my goal in that is to make good enough relationships with more processors in the state to understand, like, hey, dude, like, you can also write this off as a donation for yourself. So if you don't get any financial kickback, you're writing that off as a donation for your business, which is it's a win-win for you. You're losing a little bit of time, but you're gaining a write-off on that. So just a little bit more on the educational side of that. But to get involved with us, number one is check out our pages. And send us a line. We love to connect with people. Just get to know you, where you're at, your hunting stories. If you ever process game, do you want to come and volunteer a night? We'd love to have you. We always share a meal. There's always free drinks, free food. Kelly's a phenomenal cook. Most of the guys that come here are like, you cook better than my mom. Like I'd rather eat here than at home.
Oh, that's a bold statement to say.
Yeah, I do, for sure. There's, I think, three or four guys this year were like, yeah, my wife and my mom don't cook this good.
We won't give out their names, though, just in case.
Have you gotten to the point where, I know you processed, I guess, how many pounds of meat did you guys donate this past season?
1,816.
And that's
right now.
That's not 100% right, too, because we donated, we had a handful of friends in the area that or people that we knew that actually needed meat. So Matthew's house got 1,816 pounds.
That's very true.
Which is insane. So when you do the math on what they serve, so we do 30-pound bags for them. So it's massive bags of
we
meat.
We do 10-pound bags. They do.
Oh, you're right.
They go through. They go. I had this problem on one TVA where I gave all the wrong numbers. I won't do that again.
Fake news.
And there's our Donald Trump reference for this show.
So we donate in 10-pound bags. They're huge, but they go through 30 pounds of meat a week. So our goal was to provide them a year's worth of meat. And so that equated to 1,560. I can say that because it's on a chalkboard right over there and I can see it. So we surpassed our goal, which was awesome. And then to know that we were also able to not only donate meat to Matthew's house, but like Tim said, to people in the area that we knew they were also in need. That was a huge blessing to be able to provide that as well.
Yeah, there was probably another 400 pounds worth of meat that we donated. So it's over 2,000 pounds. So the coolest statistics that I love, I love statistics because it gives you information and it makes more sense and everything just gets, it's like, I don't know. I get excited about it.
Just wait till you build the platform and then you can track the analytics of where everybody's at and what's all.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So, out of 1,816 pounds, they do 30 pounds a week. Out of those 30 pounds, they're going to do 3 10-pound meals out of that. So they'll make 10 pounds of meatloaf or something like that. And
are you guys donating all just burger?
We grind it all.
Grind the whole thing.
It's really sad watching backstraps go through the grinder.
Oh, I can imagine.
You don't take a tax, the backstrap tax?
We
used to.
The beginning of the season we did, and we used those backstraps. I used those to make all the meals for people who are here cutting up deer.
That is so cool.
So we took the first 7 deer, and then we were looking at it. We're like, we have 14 full backstraps.
You can say you have 208 backstraps in a season. That's many.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot of meat.
Yeah, so I don't even have freezer space for that, right? So, yeah, we would take that, grind it if we need it for burger, if we're doing tacos or whatever. A lot of times it's always steak meals, which people love. But out out of the 1,816 pounds, when you do the math on how many people they feed, that meat is going to serve 11,000 plates this year. 11,000 plates will be served. Isn't that crazy?
What
awesome.
What an impact.
All in downtown Grand Rapids.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, and then on top of that, we gave a lot of prepackaged meat to them, and they do on Fridays, they give away little like food care packages. So one of the things we're doing this year is Kelly's going to be working on a cookbook. So we're gonna have a DP cookbook with all of her awesome recipes. But part of the premise behind that stemmed was all these people are getting venison, but venison you don't cook the same as you cook beef. And all these people that are getting all of this stuff, what utensils do they have to be able to cook, process, prepare these meals, right? So we're thinking, okay, well, they're not going to take this venison and make, stir fry out of it. They're looking to make literally tacos with cheese and lettuce and
chili, burrito bowls, all that stuff.
Spaghetti, right?
Yeah,
Spaghetti.
simple.
How do we get a simple recipe that talks about cook time, if you're on a stovetop, where to have your heat set and how long to cook it, some basic meals that are going to really help people just understand how to use venison and cook with it. So that was actually really fun that we're able to kind of venture into that department. And I love cooking. Kelly's so good at it. I don't really step into it. I just love the idea of creating fun meals and something different. I'll pull everything out of the refrigerator and be like, all right, I'm going to make this. And Kelly's like, huh? What are you making with that? I'm like, I don't, just watch. It'll be delicious.
There is something entertaining about that. I do that quite a bit where you just open the fridge and you say, what incredible concoction can I make with what we have in front of me?
Yeah.
My problem with that process, which I do often, is I don't remember how to recreate it. So it's different every time.
Oh, that's a downer.
Oh, yeah, dude. I'm just like, I made this meal one time, phenomenal, and I will never have it again.
I'm sorry about your luck.
One and done.
All right, so
I just wrote stuff down. It wouldn't be that big of an issue.
So while we're on the topic of food, Kelly, tell us what your favorite wild game recipe is.
I know.
What would you say my favorite is?
Well, I would say your favorite to cook for others, because everybody absolutely loves it, is your best damn pulled pork venison edition.
Yeah, that one's good. That one's like easy to feed a lot of people with. I think
everybody says it's the best
It
pulled sandwich they've ever had, and it's with venison.
It's really good.
See, that's something that I think people don't ever just completely write off the fact that
assume that it's got to be pork.
So walk us through that process, because I'm sure you have now piqued the interest of the listeners' ears.
Like the process of how I make it,
or
the
just
process of,
like what it
finding-
looks like, everything. Or you don't have to, and you can
no,
plug
no.
the DP cookbook and say you guys are going to have to just wait.
We can do a little sneak peek. I think a sneak peek is good. I use my Instapot for it. You don't have to use an Instapot, but I create like kind of a mixture of like brown sugar and a bunch of other spices, and I cut the meat up into like 2 to 4 inch pieces, depending on how big of a roast I'm using or how quickly I would like to get through the process. But I coat it in that blend of different seasons, and then I sear the meat first. So that way it coats it, but I sear it inside the Instapot. So then once I take the meat out, and then I take a wooden spoon, and this is like where the goods get good. After I'm done searing all of the meat, I take that wooden spoon and I scrape all of like the crispiness off the bottom. So then when I put the meat back in the Instapot with chicken or beef stock, depending on what I use, then all of that like excess crispiness gets like cooked into the meat. And that's just what gives it like that really deep, intense flavor, because usually the flavor is just going to sit on the outside of the meat, but as it like cooks through it all and it just falls apart in there, it's so good. It's so yummy. Yeah, that's everybody else's fan favorite. I think I tried every time that I made a meal for the guys that were here, I made a new recipe, whether it was like the main course was a new recipe, or I learned how to make cowboy butter this year. I always tried something new. They were very good company to try things on, because if it was gone by the end of the night, I knew it was good and I knew I had to make it again. And if there were leftovers, it was okay. And that was like, it's fine. Like I made a new queso the other night and there was a lot left, and I was like, that was not good. No one ate it. It was not good. toss out the whole recipe. It wasn't good. But I made sticky honey garlic bites this year, and people were like licking the bowl at the end of the night, like the serving bowl that I brought food out in. And so that was probably one of my favorites. I love a good chili though. Like I have a Texas cowboy stew recipe that I love to make, and Tim eats it because I make it and he'll eat it. But yeah, that's one of my favorites. I would say it's the Texas cowboy.
Because
stew.
I take our dog out pheasant hunting a lot too, so we do a lot with pheasant. So like we'll do pheasant chili instead of white chicken chili. So we don't buy any meat from the grocery store.
Bacon is really
The amount of money you guys save on an annual basis is insane.
Well, think about this. Matthew's house saved over $10,000 in buying meat this year.
All because of Doe Patrol.
$10,000 is what it would have cost them to buy just ground. And that's if they're only buying like
70-30.
yeah,
Low
like
end.
low end,
Barely dog food.
and it's probably close to the end of the shelf life too.
And those ministries are able to do a lot with a little. So the fact that they were able to take that 10 grand and reallocate it to something better, whether it's hats and gloves or
blanket.
blankets.
Underwear,
and-
dude. Underwear is like the number one thing they need.
Yeah, that's very true.
I need some underwear too. We always get to like 3 weeks before Christmas. It's like, hold on, boys, we're almost there.
Which ones have holes?
Oh my god,
Busting out the stapler, keep things together.
Same
my
thing with
gosh.
socks. So there's definitely a need.
Christmas socks.
every year.
Yeah, Mom, I just want socks.
You remember back in the day when you were a kid, that was the worst gift you ever
Yes.
received?
Awful.
You hated your parents for it. You're just like, guys, what is socks? And now it's the best gift you receive, especially if they're smart wool.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. If my mom doesn't get the socks that she got me like 7 years ago, I'm like, what? You couldn't find them? Well, you know what I like. I don't even want these. And then I feel bad because she got them to me for me as a gift. I didn't pay for them. Like she spent her time to go buy them. Well, they're not the socks I like.
He's
So.
particular.
So my next question is,
We're the same. We're the same human being. From the little tab on the tape to everything organized to I want this pair of socks and this pair of jeans.
copy, paste.
Yes. Yeah. It's like don't
Except
try
for
to
you're 6'2", handsome, and you have a beard, and I'm 5'10", short and bald.
Yes,
Yeah, but you have a barn full of hundreds of inches of deer
and Miller Lite on tap.
Oh,
and a
yeah.
wife. Just saying that.
And you can't shoot big bucks if your wife sucks.
I got one in the
This is
in
true.
the chamber. We're gonna work
Shout
this
out to all of the supportive women that put up with all of our crazy antics. So we appreciate you guys because you're at the end of the day, you're the glue that holds it all together. So
100%.
shout out Kelly, shout out Gracie, shout out Skylar, shout out Cass. Wham bam, thank you, ma'am. Okay,
That was good. That was really good. Was that just off the cuff right there?
off the cuff.
Dude.
We've gotten good at talking,
Yeah.
kind of. We're getting it, honing in the skills.
Kelly, do you hunt?
Not as often. I would say not as often as I like, but like, I don't know. I do, but I don't.
I mean, it's tough with kids. I understand, so
Yeah.
I'll give you the pass on
Yeah.
that. But when you go out in the woods, like, are you out there with a bow? Do you enjoy it? Are you getting drug along, or do you want to be there?
I want to be there.
That's awesome.
I'm out there with a bow. I have Tim's old compound
Awesome.
that I shoot. We
She's
just
got no bow tack.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. It's great. I love it.
Shooting an upright bow. I'm proud of you.
Thanks. It was a learning process, and then I felt like I got really good at it, and then Tim upped my poundage, and then I had to relearn some things, but that's okay. I wouldn't say I get drug along necessarily. There are some moments where Tim walks really fast and quietly at the same time. I don't know how you do that. I have to be
Heel
slow
toe.
to be quiet. Yeah,
Spot on.
I'm learning.
Heel toe,
that.
bend the knees.
I'm learning that very quickly. But yeah, we'll go sit in like the muddy blind. I like that because then there's a heater and we can just like hang out. But this was my first time this year. We've sat in a few tree stands before, but this one was like a tree stand. Like we were so high up in the air, and it took me so long. Tim was like, stand up, just stand up. Like I had a safety harness on. I knew I was fine. I knew I was safe, but my body was like Not at all.
Not doing it?
No,
No.
we are not standing up. It took me so long to finally stand up and push the seat back. And yeah, but I love being out in the woods, and I just think it's so beautiful. I've never done a morning sit, and I would love to do a morning sit. It's hard with kids, like you said, but something about watching the world come alive just seems like so beautiful to me. So I would love to be able to do that at some point, but
Yeah, that is magical. You know, you sit out in October and you watch everything go to sleep. The sun sets, there's like those long wispy clouds and they're orange and pink and it's so beautiful. But when you sit there and you hear that first bird chirp in the morning, everything's dark. And that bush is sitting there and it looks like a 12-point buck because like you're looking through the twilight of the morning, but you're watching everything wake up. The first birds start chirping. And then all of a sudden you hear some scurrying along the ground and then squirrels come out. And it is, sun starts coming up and it's gorgeous. It's a magical moment. And you get it on a really crispy November morning when everything has frost on it.
yeah.
And then the sun comes up and everything just, like, it's like a diamond. Everything just explodes. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, a lot of times, like when Tim hunts out of state and like he'll send pictures or whatever, like our kids love to look at it, but that is usually my favorite. Like there's something about the outdoors that just like really hits home for me, and like I absolutely love it. And so like when Tim sends me like the initial morning photo or like the sunset picture, like he knows that like that is one of my love languages, is like seeing that beautiful landscape that like the Lord painted, and like knowing that like there's no other sky that looks like that sky right in that moment, and there never will be. And so just to, you know, think of it in that aspect, like that's awesome that you guys get to witness that.
It's kind of like we were, for a while, we spent some time trying to figure out kind of what Bible verse we wanted to use as our core Bible verse. And we landed on Psalm 46:10, which is, just says, "Be still and know I'm God." And with the speed that life hits you at, whether it's just the inundation of technology and our phones and social media, there's something to be said about just unplugging and being still and watching the woods wake up. I'm not a morning guy, but watching the woods wake up. When I actually get up, it's good. But watching the woods fall asleep too is also.
You strike me as someone that may say he doesn't like the morning, but as soon as he rolls out of bed, you're as chipper as you are right now in like 3 seconds.
It takes me a little while.
Come on.
Like you'll ask my wife. I'm kind of a grump in the morning. Like
Really?
she's kind of one of the people that'll roll out of bed just as soon as her eyes open. It's like, welcome.
Yeah, that's
And
me.
for me, it's like I need about 15 minutes. If I can get 2 or 3, if I get 2 or 3 sips of coffee, I'm okay.
I need all 30 ounces
Depends
before
on if
I'm
we were
Reed
up until
Robinson.
2 in the morning or not.
You're up until 2 a.m. a lot, so that's not.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say
So
that's not.
We are the same.
Yeah. Well, and now we're on coyote season, so yeah. Next project for us is Project Saving Queens.
Yes.
So we're
Yes.
we're
Yes,
getting on
Queen.
the
Let's
we're,
go.
we're going on the thermal gang, and we'll have a lot of content going out on predator stuff. So
you have to
it'll be fun.
backtrack a little bit. So one of Doe Patrol's, like, I wouldn't necessarily say key phrases or like a catchphrase, is like freezer queens. Like if you look at our apparel, or we have hats, like we have a logo that says freezer queens on it and it has a doe on it. And so when Tim is saying saving queens, he's talking about like hunting the coyotes to ensure that like the herd stays.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
freezer
and then you
queen
have more of
lines.
them you can shoot the next year. Which
You guys
means more
are-
meat, which
Exactly.
You guys are the purest form of conservationists when you think about it, because not only are you killing hammers, as you can see from the wall behind Tim, which we will post plenty of photos of, but at the same time, you're maintaining a healthy herd by removing as many does. And that's super underrated, because the amount of people that focus only on killing bucks, nobody really focuses on the doe aspect. So not only are you guys doing good in the realm of donation and benefiting these ministries and feeding people, but you're also attacking the huge problem that we have here in Michigan.
people don't realize it.
It's
Like,
terrible.
A friend of mine's a farmer, and he's like, "Well, where do you go to shoot those?" I'm like, "Dude, literally, I have a field less than 300 yards away from your house that I've shot coyotes out of." He's like, "Are you kidding me? They live by my house?" I'm like, "Dude, they probably go through your yard." He's like, "No way. I can't let my dog out anymore." So, yeah, it's fascinating.
Especially once we get on the cougar topic.
Oof. I've seen one. Terrifying.
You too?
Oh.
Yeah, Big Rapids.
Big Rapids in Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
There
Yeah.
we go. That's
It's proof.
confirmed.
It's real.
It's proof.
It's a
Confirmed
real
firsthand.
thing, and it'll make your sphincter pucker when you hear him scream.
Have you heard him scream?
Oh yeah, it scared me. Like,
Okay,
I didn't even want to walk back. I called my buddy. I was like, "Dude, you need to come get me from the tree stand."
Yep. We just opened up the can of worms of this year. Caleb, we were talking about it.
But remember, they don't exist in the Lower Peninsula. They don't.
They
They're
don't.
not here.
Yeah.
So
I'd like to get to know an honesty in our officer.
So here, this is
They
what
got
we
real
found.
quiet.
The rule of thumb is, I don't think they want to acknowledge that they're in the Lower Peninsula, because as soon as they do, they have to open a management plan, which is going to cost millions of dollars. You're going to have to open a whole new department, and then also you have to deal with the backlash of the community, because some people love big cats, but also then you've got the people worrying about, can't go on a walk in the woods anymore. Is there big cats here?
I say Michigan just hires Carol Baskin to come do a big cat management plan.
That is brilliant.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. She'll come sleuth them out and tell them exactly where they're at.
Mm.
We did start talking about that a lot this year, and it's been a very hot button topic. We've been getting pictures nonstop. People have been sending stuff in, and like I found tracks before, about that big. I got big paws and my hands fit, and I'm like, that's a big whatever it is, and there's
big kitty.
no claws, nothing. I'm like, that's cat. I've never heard him scream, but
It's
I know
terrifying.
Yeah, I would have the exact same reaction, just like, not come get me. Somebody with a gun, come get me.
We've got 3 firsthand stories we'll tell you later, because I don't want to share them on audio, but they're pretty freaking wild.
That's nuts.
So we'll tell you afterwards.
So-
Don't let me forget.
Can I circle back to Bible verse a second?
No.
Yes.
Says a guy who's on like consistory and stuff.
What's consistory?
Okay, that's a different branch. Never mind.
Okay. Anyways, continue.
Never mind. So our Bible verse that we've kind of adopted. We're not a proclaimed ministry. Part of that is because of the community aspect, that we want to make everybody feel welcome. And when you have your brand tied directly to having ministry or church or whatever, people are scared by it. Whether they've been hurt by the church, they were de-churched, or just never felt like it was their space to feel comfortable. That doesn't allow this space then to feel comfortable for people who just want to volunteer their time. And that's why we don't shout it to the mountains. That's why I'm not sitting here being like, "Hey, is Jesus Christ your Lord and Savior?"
No,
Hunter, is Jesus Christ your Lord and Savior?
I respect that that mindset though. Like that, it's so important to have that kind of mindset.
It's the action, not the words. Right?
Absolutely.
So all it is we act a certain way, and I still cuss like a sailor and have a handful of drinks every now and again, and it's like I'm not perfect. I'm a sinner, right? And I have my flaws, and I'm always working on bettering myself and doing a lot of self reflecting to be able to figure out how I can navigate my flaws and my shortcomings and my downfalls. But at the end of the day, I still need to honor him in everything that I'm trying to do. Right. So the verse that we kind of took on this year, which isn't necessarily like a proclaimed thing, is Proverbs 27:17, which says, "As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another." And it's literally just the perfect verse, especially being a proverb, right? Of us being here, trying to work with one another to accomplish a goal, to better our skills, to benefit others, which, I mean, even just from what you said earlier, where now Matthew's house has $10,000 they can use elsewhere, right? And that's iron sharpening iron. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's huge. I like that one. That verse holds so much weight, more than people know, and you guys are doing exactly that. From what I can, just the little like sneak preview of what I've been able to see, it's so cool. We love meeting movers and shakers, and you guys are the epitome of movers and shakers.
Well, I appreciate that. It's not us though.
I respect that answer too. You guys are the extension.
We're the vessel.
Yep. And everyone, in situations like that, you have to have the vessel, and you guys are doing it very well.
Appreciate that.
So tell me about where the name came from, how it started, logo design, all of that stuff. At what point did you know, like, hey, we got something here?
We didn't. In every single year, even from the beginning, I'm a doodler. Like I said, I was a marketing major, so creative stuff is just in my wheelhouse. And I sketched you can't eat the antlers on a doe, and I was like, Kelly, you need to make this into a shirt, so make it look better. And she's dabbled in graphic designing stuff, and she designs all of our stuff. from stickers to our hats to we have a new one coming out, which I'm super stoked about. I'm partially stoked because it's R2G2, as in around his neck it says "Eat more Does." So it's the Chick-fil-A version
That's cool.
Yes.
of
That's
whitetail.
really cool.
So
I like it.
yeah, I mean he's a 170-inch deer, but it's like no, don't shoot the bucks, shoot the does, eat more does. So it's more of a joke, and we're gonna kind of try to grow that line of merchandise because that's actually what funds everything.
That's what I was about to ask is like, how are you guys funded? You're spending so much time and resources and money, whether it's building this space out, food, processing, time, equipment, all of that stuff is.
We go through $400 in just like blades a year.
Wow.
So
So the
we should have
merchant-
thrown a lot more away.
So the merchandise is the number one way that you guys kind of at least try to somewhat reimburse yourselves from
There's
the investment.
Yeah, there's no reimbursement to us.
Okay.
For the first 3 years, it was all out of pocket, and I estimated the first year wasn't nearly as expensive, but when we put the cooler in, the walk-in cooler, and we run that all 3 months, so that's burning a lot of energy. Our vacuum sealers, our grinders, we got 2 grinders now, but everything takes a beating, especially when you have people who don't know how to sift through silver skin and make a blade last longer and not just hack at the bones and whatnot, which is part of the process. So it might cost us a little bit more in the long run, but it's the impact and the education that it outweighs it, right? So
Like when Tim says that they take a beating, we had one night where we were cutting up deer and one of our grinders started smoking because it was so hot.
it ran for 2.5 hours.
And we there was some meat that the guys started pulling pieces out because they were already getting like half cooked from how hot the grinder was. Yes. But I mean, they have had nights where they've cut up like 11 plus deer. in a handful
Our
of
biggest night
hours.
was 15. And
Yeah.
we did
15 deer.
300
That's
some pounds
impressive.
of ground.
And that
through.
was what, in like 4 or 5 hours?
We did it. We started at 5 and we were done at 9:30.
You guys are moving.
My goodness.
Yeah. We've got a great group. Like I said earlier, we've got a great group of guys that come in and everybody's kind of got their lane and they've started to like kind of stay in their lane and do the job that they do a good job at. So that's been helpful.
Start to finish with, let's say, 4 guys. How long does it take you to do a deer?
Oh, 4. Well, I can do a deer in an hour and a half.
You can do an entire deer, like
An entire deer.
completely boned, cut
Ground
out.
sealed.
Wow.
Hour and a half. Now I gotta make sure I'm not doing anything else. Like if I like set it down and been like, I'm gonna do this deer and I'm gonna get it done. I don't have a lot of time. I could have it done in an hour and a half. So like if we have a deer caped, this year was kind of fun. We kind of played around a lot more because we got so efficient. We were able to actually kind of enjoy our time towards the end of the season versus the first like 5 nights. Everybody was still kind of learning our process, how we do things. We had our 6 core DP team guys here helping educate everybody. And it took about 5-6 nights to get everybody really in tune. But by the end of the year, like one of the guys was just like, how fast can you debone a deer? And I debone it hanging. So I don't take the whole bone quarters off. All the meat comes off while it's hanging. So we had it caped out and I deboned a deer in 6.5 minutes.
What?
Every single piece of meat was off in 6.5 minutes.
All I'm picturing is like, remember that Fruit Ninja
Yep.
app? All I see is just like everything goes into slow motion and Tim's just.
I only
And then
stabbed
just-
myself once.
Are you going in between the ribs and everything on that?
Not on that, though. I did
Okay.
not. It was too small.
I saw a video recently of a guy. He grabs the top and just
Yeah, we've seen it.
everything
Yeah,
just comes.
crazy.
I can't do that. I can't do that. That's
He's-
like Mr. Miyagi of deer. Like,
Tim's
wax
also
on,
really
meat off.
good at skull capping. You got really good at that. Last year was the year that you really focused on learning how to skull cap because he now can do like European mounts and stuff like that. He's really good.
well, it's more preparation for taxidermy.
Yeah,
so
that too.
I think I did 15 deer this year for people.
For
so.
Euro mounts or just like taking the
No, the hide off
like
for
skinning,
first.
yeah, like caping it out.
Yeah, getting it skull capped so that it's prepared for shoulder mounting.
That's awesome.
Which the biggest premise why I learned that is I'm getting into taxidermy for a hobby. So no to you listeners, I will not do your deer. But also
For the right price.
yeah, $1,000.
Yeah, there we go.
But also when we're out of state, it is never convenient to bring a deer back ever. And so we're always kind of put in a situation where it's the last night and we're like, what do we do? And it's like, okay, well, we can hang it up. I can get it deboned and quartered and I'll skull cap it and cut the cut the antlers off, and it'll be done in 2 hours or less because I'm not actually separating the meat groups and grinding it and all that. So about 2 hours, and I can have a deer ready to go. Pretty crazy.
I'm still just fixated on 6.5 minutes. So, like, for the record, it takes me probably 15 to 20 minutes to skin a deer, let alone debone it completely.
Skinning sucks.
It does suck. But even if you were to give me like a front quarter, all of that, I'll probably like sift through it in maybe 30 minutes. Because like I'm just slow. It takes a long time to like separate everything out, get all the silver skin off. Like
Yeah, that's like 5 minutes for me.
yeah, like that's ridiculous.
But the front quarters, I learned a technique to be able to take all of the meat off of the bone connected on the front quarter of the scapula.
That's fascinating. It sounds okay. So my next question is
My
like,
mind is just blown.
Your
right now.
eyes are telling me that.
Shut
well, my next question is, how many nights a week are you guys bringing all the guys in here and doing this during season?
1.5.
So you have like a Friday night.
No, it's usually a weeknight. We like to respect people's weekends.
That's fair.
And people like to hunt in early season. It gets dark so late that it actually ends up me being here really late, and then I'm the only one left to clean up, and the cleanup takes a really long time with one person.
Oh, I bet.
Many hands make light work.
How many guys you usually have in here doing
I
that for
say
you?
good average 12.
12. Some nights we've maxed out at like, I think I counted one night we had like 22 people here.
Wow.
It's just not enough room for 22 people. There was a lot of
Pretty tight.
lot of just
Yeah.
hanging out going on.
Yeah.
So
That's like having 5 people in the bunker. Little tight.
we had 49 people here for our event.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us about that. That's a great segue. Let's go into your event and what your plans are for 2024 in the calendar year, like growth wise, everything.
Yeah, so this was the first year that we extended like the doe donations to like the full season. So going into 2024, I'm sure we'll probably carry on that same kind of structure, continuing to take in like doe donations. But for the event itself, this year was awesome. It was so fun. It was so great. One of Tim's really good buddies owns a landscaping business in the Saugatuck area. And so he brought a skid steer, and rather than bringing all the deer into our barn to be weighed where like everyone's hanging out, we had the skid steer outside. And so as people came up, they're like, oh, and we weighed every single doe. We did a largest doe winner. Whoever shot the largest doe received a gift certificate to long range archery. And then we did a smallest doe, and that one was hilarious. The smallest doe was smaller than our German short haired pointer.
And they got a 50 pound bag of corn.
Yeah, it was kind of a joke.
Which is even better. It's like you can't bait in
It weighs
Michigan,
more
but
Yeah.
we gave you a
That's
bag
awesome.
to bait because
Yeah.
that deer needed to be fat.
Yeah. So that was really cool this year to have that version. Oh, I need more coffee. To have that as people showed up. And then the event itself.
That's Windwood Property Services, by the way. Plug. Thanks for your.
Thanks, Christian.
Shout out.
Christian and his dog Togi. Our children love his dog. Our little 2-year-old daughter will chant Togi's name whenever she sees Christian's truck. Togi, Togi. It's so cute. So we do the doe weigh-in, and then we have like a specific time frame during the night where... What are you looking at?
Where did that thing come from?
Probably outside.
Reed left the door open, just letting bugs in.
I did leave the door open. No, I almost didn't make it back in. The handle's
okay?
kind of sticky.
Oh,
Yeah, our
Yeah.
son can't get in either.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
How old is he?
4.
4.
Yeah.
We just call that a child proof.
Yeah. Yeah.
Read proof.
That's read proof.
So during the event, we have our speakers come in from all of our different beneficiaries. We have 2 financial beneficiaries, and then we have Matthew's house, which is like
Ooh,
our meat.
we didn't-
And then
We didn't touch
we didn't
on
talk about
Hunt to Heal.
Yeah, I'll talk about Hunt to Heal. I know. I've been waiting for a moment to talk about them. And then we also have a gentleman on our Doe Patrol team. His name is Alex Hunt. He is a dog tracker, and so he does This is one of my favorite parts of the Doe Patrol event is when Alex talks about his like after the shot, and he talks about like when to call a dog tracker, what different types of blood to look for, like what is the dog actually sniffing when it sniffs the ground. Like the dog's not actually sniffing for blood, it's sniffing for like a specific scent that comes through like the hooves. There's that gland that like releases scent. And so that's why like when you have a dog tracker, it picks up the scent of that deer that's been shot, that's freaking out, and it can find that scent versus like the doe that's 50 yards away that's just hanging out. Like it can differentiate that. So Alex he's so awesome at what he does. He's so educated in the realm of deer tracking. And actually this was his first year ever hunting. He's been dog tracking for years and he's never actually hunted. So we got him into hunting. So that was really fun. But going back to our beneficiaries, at the event, when they come to speak, they just talk a little bit about who they are, what they do. So like we talked about earlier, Sports Persons Ministries is one of our financial beneficiaries. So when someone is like, I want to make a donation to Doe Patrol, that's what that money is going towards, is our financial beneficiaries. When people purchase merchandise, that goes towards deer processing. So kind of to make that a little bit more
offset
black
the cost,
and white.
like you were saying, of knives, grinders, equipment, maintenance, all
so
of that stuff.
To kind of make that a little bit more black and white, if someone donates monetarily, it's going towards one of our financial beneficiaries. But if you buy merchandise, that's going directly towards helping us process meat.
And that's also only during the event.
Correct.
So like we've had some people that just want to write checks just to help us out. They're like, just put that toward whatever you need. We've had businesses, we had a lot of sponsors this year that were awesome too. But we've had a handful of just individuals who are like, hey, we want to help out.
Yeah. So going back to our financial beneficiaries, our second financial beneficiary, we ended up kind of adding them on to what we're supporting 2 years ago. I had just started working at a nonprofit in Zealand, and I was scrolling through Instagram, and I found there's a coffee shop in Hudsonville called 317 Coffee. And each month they have a different nonprofit that they support. And so I was intentionally going there to sign up for my own nonprofit to try to get funds there. And all of a sudden I look to see who their November nonprofit was, and it was Hunt to Heal. And I was like, what is this? I've never heard of this. I want to learn more. And I then spent a handful of hours like looking through their website, looking at their social medias, like what do they do? What is their purpose? What is their mission? And so I reached out to Tim. I was like, they need to be a part of who we support. Like we loved supporting the Boys and Girls Club. It was a great for the time frame that we were supporting them personally. But as Doe Patrol grew, we realized that it wasn't necessarily who we wanted to support. It was who aligns with what we're doing. And so from there, Hunt to Heal really aligned with our mission of like getting new hunters into the outdoors, or getting people into the outdoors who maybe haven't experienced hunting the way that we have. So what Hunt to Heal does is they take people in the woods hunting who are physically disabled. So Carson Nienhuis, the founder, he was in a motorcycle accident and fell into this depression for a year and a half, 2 years. And finally one of his buddies was like, dude,
completely paralyzed from the armpits down.
Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
Paralyzed.
So
he broke, but he shouldn't be alive. Like the vertebrae that he broke, he should not be alive today.
It is insane. So your top two vertebrae that connect your skull to your spine are your C1 and C2. And like those are what make your head go side to side and up and down, essentially. Like those are the two most important vertebrae in your body. And he broke both of those. He should not be alive. He is a true testament to the fact that the Lord needed him here on this earth. And Hunt to Heal is like the imagery of that. And so Carson, fallen into this depression, one of his buddies is like, dude, we need to help you out. And he literally was like, Carson, we're going hunting. And Carson was like, not a chance. I can't get out in the woods. I'm confined to this wheelchair. How are we going to do that? And his friend literally threw him over his shoulder and carried him out to the blind.
Holy wow.
And Carson, I love listening to him when he tells this part, but it just like...
And he shared, so when we have our event, our financial beneficiaries, we have them share their story.
Yeah.
So him and one of the board members sat down. One of the board members, Jeff Allen Boss, who is a good friend of mine, awesome guy. He he also fell out of a tree stand and is paralyzed from the waist down.
Yeah.
And so him and
safety
Carson
harnesses,
spoke
everybody.
and shared both their stories at our event.
Did you hear that, Reed?
I heard it too.
I'm stubborn until my back's broken.
Yeah, well.
I wore one all season this
yeah,
year.
wear them. Wear them.
Not a chance.
Come home to your families. Wear them.
The only pride you get out of that is your own. Nobody else
The
cares.
pride before the fall.
Yeah, nobody
Literally.
else cares.
So-
Everybody else wants to see you come home. And
Yes.
a $20 safety harness and a $20
Yes,
lifeline
please.
attached to the tree the entire time saves that.
Once
Yeah.
again, I will make my statement. It is the wise decision. It's the right thing to do. It does not cost a lot of money. There is no reason I shouldn't wear it. I just don't.
That should be the number one item.
That's the most ridiculous excuse I've ever heard.
I
in
know.
my life.
I know. There's no good reason for it. I'm just like, I don't want the extra stuff behind me.
It's worth it.
I know.
It's worth it. Anyways, going back to Carson's story,
I should
Tim
slap
will,
you.
Tim will
do it, please. Yeah, I'd welcome it.
Tim will talk your ear off after this. But anyways, so going back to Carson. So his buddy gets him in the blind and it's a morning sit. And this is also part of the reason why I'm like, I want to sit a morning sit anytime Carson talks about this. And Carson said, as he watched the world come alive, he's like, this is why you get in the woods. And I want this. And then the more time he spent reflecting on that, he's like, more people need this. More people like me need this. And so Hunt to Heal happened to help people who are physically disabled.
Begin their healing process.
Yes, like you can't.
He felt in that moment for the first time ever in a couple years, not ever, in a couple years, that he was finally free of all his pain. He had forgot. Right, he was sitting in that chair, and just like we were talking about earlier, the birds come alive, the squirrels come down from the tree. You know, you start to see the deer moving, and the sun starts to rise, the dew starts to disappear. Right, that he felt all of that and forgot he was paralyzed, forgot all the pain he had, and that's why it's called Hunt to Heal, which is so cool. And they have a lodge in Bitely.
Yeah, so it's a zero entry, so meaning anybody like in a wheelchair can get in. Everything is created so that way people who are, you know, paralyzed or confined to a wheelchair, they can get around at the lodge. And so when we like support them financially, that helps them purchase like track chairs so people can be in a wheelchair to get out to the blinds or out.
Or
you know,
Outbounders is another one out there.
Like when we went up there and we got a tour of the place, they took us in their golf cart, and their golf cart is like designed so that way it's got like a ramp for people in wheelchairs to go up into the golf cart. Like all of these things that able-bodied people don't necessarily think about. And so when we learned about Hunt to Heal, we're like, we have to support them. So ultimately, if you were to boil down like our partnerships, we've got Sports Persons Ministry, Hunt to Heal. Those are two financial beneficiaries. Matthew's House Ministry gets the meat donations. And then we have Hunt Canine Game Recovery. But then we also do partnerships with HuntWise. If you use the app, awesome. If you don't yet, you should. And then Long Range Archery here in Holland. We do a lot of work with them. Painted Arrow, Boontown Seed.
Yeah, we actually have a handful of partnerships.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
How'd you connect with the Painted Arrow guys?
So I actually had reached out to Nate a long time ago, like before they blew up. And this is like shortly after the boat. And so I just love what you have. Would love to connect. And part of it was, you know, I knew they were Christians and had good morals and good values. And I was like, I just want to connect. We weren't able to connect. It kind of disappeared for a couple of years. But in that time, I had sent them a couple of our OG shirts. And if you look back on their Instagram, you can see Nate wearing our OG You Can't Eat the Antler shirts on a handful of their reels. It's actually awesome. So, but yeah, so I reached out to them again this year and was just like, hey, we're gonna do a bunch of shoot a lot of deer with our group. We'd like to be able to get it on film so we can continue to push the content and show what we're doing. And he's like, awesome, sounds good.
Shout out Nate and Devin.
Yeah,
go get it.
cool.
Mag Pros. I mean, the amount of stuff that they've got now is just crazy. So
Even wives, you can put it on your phone.
Painted Arrows
have one
Outdoors,
on mine.
guys, go check them out. If you have not yet, we talk about them quite a bit. So that's
so cool.
That's awesome. It blows my mind how massive the hunting community is, but also how tiny the hunting community is. It's just like you're always at best maybe 2 touch points away from somebody. That's super cool.
What does Bill and Terry call it? The 5 degree?
I don't remember.
Is it 5 degrees? It's kind of like how we call it Dutch bingo over here.
Yeah, we love Dutch bingo.
How you're always connected to somebody somehow. Like you guys knew 30 people that went to Hope College, and my wife's like, yeah, I knew every single one of them. Like I did a Bible study with that person.
Yep.
Right? Like that's the whole Dutch bingo. But I think it was 5 degrees. Like you're always only off by 5 degrees of the hemisphere.
It's true. All right, let's talk about something a little controversial. So behind you, there's a lovely sign of a neon doe that says you can't eat the antlers. Now, that is for at least people, that's a common statement made by what we call the FUD army. And it is an excuse, and it's like an excuse to shoot small bucks. Have you had people talk about that at all? The you can't eat the antlers aspect? Because I know after getting to know you, it's the complete opposite of that. You're not using it in that terminology, but
we've had a little bit, actually, quite a lot after Kelly was on Wood TV. So when Kelly went on to Wood TV, she had a live. I mean, they posted a live video on Wood TV 8 of her. They came and interviewed her. We had so that link was posted in a bunch of Facebook groups, and we got a bunch of flack for it. Like people that are just like, oh, you're the reason why there's no deer around me. Oh, you're so ridiculous. Like anything that comes in front of me, I'm going to shoot it. I don't care if it's a spike or not. I need to feed my family. The first opportunity I get, I have to shoot it, and yada yada. So we had this is the first time we've ever had backlash. The first 3 years, it was more of just like a joke, right? Like, oh yeah, you can't eat the antlers, of course. And I'm like, yeah, but you can grow big ones. So this year was interesting. We never had anybody attack us though this year with that, where they were hounding us, trying to post it everywhere. They just were keyboard warriors on Facebook and decided to make 15 comments after every single person commented. And it was actually entertaining to see the hunting community come behind that, because people were responding to him and like, yeah, dude, you're so naive. And it wasn't just one person. It was, I think there was probably 10 people that were posting on that. I wasn't on the post. I don't follow that group, but somebody sent me a few screenshots. So that was cool. There's no such thing as bad press. So,
I mean, can you guys just elaborate a little bit on trophy hunting coupled with doe management? You go out and shoot. I look over there and I see you shot between your guys' group 70 doe out of this location or out of this team this year, and 36 bucks, 32.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's what came through here. Some of the bucks didn't come.
Sure. But you're shooting a massive amount of does. And one of the arguments that I heard is, well, when you shoot a doe, you're shooting the next generation of bucks. What is your take on the doe management side of things, coupled or partnered with trophy hunting as well?
I have a lot of opinions about that.
Just help us share. Help us get the word out on what's going on.
The number one thing for me is food source. A, hunting pressure is a problem. B, food source. So you have too many deer. The actually quality of the meat that you're going to have is going to go down because the nutrition that they're able to intake is diminished and devalued, right? So if you have, let's just say you sit and you see 30 does a sit, and you're prideful about seeing 30 does a sit, it's like, well, that's really great. That's awesome for new hunters to see also, because it's exciting. You're not just sitting there bored looking at trees sway in the wind. But at the same point, I don't know if you guys saw that post recently about the kidneys, looking at deer's kidneys after you got the deer. If you look at the kidneys and they're covered in fat, or they're not covered in fat, it has to do with the nutritional value of that deer. So if you have bare kidneys and you can't, if you can find the kidneys in the deer, it's stating that the deer has not gotten enough nutrition throughout the year, because it should have enough to be able to cut it in fat, essentially. So that's a part of it. So with us in Illinois and our farm that we hunt there, we have a lot of does. We also have does that are so old. I believe they're probably 18 years old at this time. They were probably 6 to 8 years old when we got the farm 10 years ago. Now we've had does die of old age. One died 10 yards from my tree stand, and this doe is so big, she would have dressed over 200. She was that big.
Oh, my God.
I'm not.
Goodness.
I say that, but it was probably 180. But I'm just looking at it. She was slightly bloated, and I'm like, that looks like one of the biggest buck's bodies I've ever shot in my life. It's just unbelievable. My brother Grant, who actually just pulled in, he had a doe by him this year, and we have never taken a doe off of that farm. Part of it's the timing and the space and the infrastructure, like the ability that we have to process them, and where our sanctuaries are and where we hunt. It hasn't been convenient. So this year is the first year that we tried to go down there and take some does, and we were unsuccessful, which stinks. We should have just shot them in early season, like you should. So, anyways, but the issue there is we have a really good buck to doe ratio, but we also have a ton of does. So there's a lot of ag. So there's plenty of food. But then once the food disappears, what are they eating? They're eating browse, leaves, bark. What are they finding? And is there enough foraging for them in the woods? And are you leaving food sources for them? So do you have turnips? Do you have late season food sources that they're able to go to and eat? Did you leave beans? Did you leave corn? What do you have available to them? That's why I'm a huge fan of baiting, actually, for supplemental feeding. So places like Iowa, where you can bait before the season, it's supplemental feeding that saves your herd. You have a healthier herd, right?
It's a great argument.
So that's the only reason why I'm for baiting, is for that. Which
Regulated feeding,
Correct.
Protein, supplements, minerals.
Yes. The only state I've seen big bucks killed off bait is Ohio. Like, and Kansas. But that's truckloads of bait.
That's
Yoder.
But to kind of circle back to my opinion on does, bucks, management, the healthiest, to be able to have a healthy deer population, I think you need to be around 3 to 1. Now, that's my opinion. 3 does to every buck. I think that's probably even... That's my own.
Oh, okay.
That's my own. But I think that's high, right? But most places are like 8 to 1, right? Like around here...
It's awful.
Around here, we see 8 does to every buck. And if we see a buck, it's a yearling. So why are we seeing only yearling or 2-year-old bucks? Because anything with horns gets shot.
Yep.
Especially once we hit November 15, which is a whole nother issue of when our gun season is. What I've boiled everything down to is the problem isn't actually our seasons. The problem is the hunters. If the hunters would just decide, hey, we're not going to shoot 2-year-old deer. We're not just going to shoot deer that have 4 on one side, because there's yearlings that'll grow 4 on one side. We're going to start shooting deer that are mature. So what's mature? Let's just say 3 years old. We'll start with 3 years old. That's not necessarily a mature deer for the entire Midwest, but in Michigan, a 3-year-old deer is a mature deer. So if everybody started shooting 3-year-old deer, you know how many 3-year-old deer we would see? A ton. But then you know how many 3-year-old deer would slip through the cracks and we'd see 4-year-old deer. You know how much more meat you get off of a 3 and 4-year-old deer versus a 2-year-old buck that you're gonna either European mount or hack the antlers off of and just throw in a bucket. It's like, what's the point in that?
Yep.
Preaching to the choir.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'd like to see it get just a little bit more balanced. If we can get down to 3 to 1, that's great. I also like to see deer.
Yeah.
So,
Tag reform, I think, and it's hard to change that.
yeah,
1 buck tag.
earn a buck.
Yep.
You're an earn a buck guy.
I love
love
earn a
earn a
buck.
buck.
I love
Are you earn your second buck or earn your first buck guy?
I'd be fine with earn your second buck, because that's not that many people that actually shoot 2 bucks in a year.
There you go.
Yep.
I mean, I hunt really hard, and to shoot 2 bucks in one state is really hard. Really hard.
mature
To
bucks?
shoot 2 mature bucks,
Yeah.
yeah. But if I was going to go out and shoot 2 bucks, I'd be tagged out every year before November.
And we wouldn't be here.
No.
We would have done our Instagram on it and be like, nah.
Or you would have been super
Fud.
disappointed in this barn. You would have walked in and been like, oh, this is not good.
What would have happened had we walked in that door and there's just a bunch of shoulder mounts of like 80-inch deer, like 6 of them on the wall? You'd be like,
Turn around, walk out.
We got
Back
the
it up,
wrong
boys.
place.
Well, these are the doe guys. So.
It was a good day to look at the windshield.
You really can't eat the antlers, can you? Yeah.
I always say you can't eat the antlers, but you can stir the chili with them.
Oh my gosh, I was just going to say that. The neighbor guy, Carl, an older guy, he literally preaches that all the time.
What's his nickname?
I don't have a nickname. Oh, Mr. Rogers. I do have a nickname for him. Yeah.
So nice.
Yeah.
He's
He's
so
a
nice.
big proponent of shooting does, and he gets mad at all the other old timers that are around here. He's like, "What do you need another fork horn to stir the chili with?"
So we went and sat down. If you go listen to the episode with Colby Bettis from Two Hats Ranch, he talks about how the healthy buck to doe ratio is 2 bucks to 1 doe.
I think I listened to that.
It's just completely inconceivable.
Yeah, and he will say you cannot achieve that outside of a high fence because nature is a vacuum. You kill something, it's going to move in. You know, you can start shooting does, and that's why I asked about, you know, you guys shooting a lot of does off of one of your properties last year, and you say you have issues with seeing deer this year. It's like, you know, give that time, and that all the deer are going to move back into that area. And I don't know if you can physically kill enough deer as a single or maybe like a twin hunter on a property to like completely eliminate it. You can overpressure it like by being in there too much, but I don't know if you could like pressure it appropriately and kill too many deer.
I think you could. And the only reason why I say that is look at our pheasant population.
But wouldn't you equate that to predators?
No.
No?
No.
You
That
don't
was
think it's coyotes?
it was overhunted.
Okay.
It was way overhunted. This area used to have a plethora of pheasants. My dad used to go out in high school, and literally after school, they'd just go hunt pheasants, and they just walk everybody's ditches because you could walk wherever you wanted.
Ditch chickens.
And I love ditch chickens.
That's yes.
We need to make a shirt that says ditch chickens. Yeah, I don't know. I agree with what you're saying, but I think it'd be harder to do than a bird. But I think it's doable because if you look at our 80 acres that we have right down the road, that 80 acres we took 10 deer off of last year. We averaged 12 to 15 deer a sit we would see last year and the year before and the year before. And we only shot a couple deer the previous years. So now we are down to seeing probably 6 to 8 deer a sit. And we have some trickled in there where you see 2 to 4 deer a sit. But the point of that being is we didn't see a lot of bucks either. Why is that? There wasn't enough food for them. And the only time they came in was during the rut. Well, I don't want to just see bucks during the rut because it's really hard to kill bucks during the rut. And I'd rather target and try to harvest a specific deer than get lucky and have some neighbor's deer from 2.5 miles down come in and I get to just schwack them. Just kind of takes away from the chase for me. But yeah, so that balance is coming down, and we're actually, for 80 acres, seeing 6 to 8 deer sit. That means there's probably 20 deer that go through the property. There's probably 12 that live on the property, and that's probably pretty close to healthy. We have pretty good food sources, but that's not a lot of food for 80 acres.
It is true.
And in that 2-to-1 ratio that the Bettis family at Two Hats was talking about is to grow world-class buck.
Yeah.
You know, that's you're focusing all your efforts on buck, and they'll tell you that the large majority of the genetics that get passed down are going to be through the does. And so, you know, they don't focus their attention as much on the does. They view them as a renewable resource that it's like, hey, those are our producers, but we're trying to like focus all our energy on big bucks.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really where their time and effort is spent.
Yeah, it makes sense. I have a good friend actually that grows deer for a living.
Oh, he's a farm?
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's
right
cool.
on the north side of town. So yeah, it's pretty cool. We're partnering up with him. He's got a lodge up in actually right by Bitely as well, right where Hunt Hill is, and he's eventually going to high fence it. We're gonna use it to take new hunters out to shoot their first deer and just teach them about hunting. But he's not going to high fence it for a few years just because of the cost associated to it. So we're going to start a deer camp up there to be able to bring new hunters up too, because he's still got plenty of deer up there. But
That's cool.
yeah, he wants to give back. He's like, I love deer, but I'd way rather hunt. He's got like 140 acres or something like that. He's like, it's way easier to hunt your own regulated, managed, antlered deer. He's like, whether they have tags in them or not, it's the same thing. They're just not wild.
Let's focus back on Doe Patrol a little bit. So pipe dream, like next 10 years, like where do you guys want to see this organization growing to? What's the vision? I know you've talked about it.
We have lots of
Paint us a picture.
Ideas. We have lots of ideas.
Every single year, we've had so backtrack. We have had so many people say, I thought this would just be a one and done thing. 1 year and it was over. And then it happened the next year and I was like, okay, they made it. Probably not going to survive. In every single year, we go through the off season and there's a lot of talks and thoughts about it, but there hasn't been like a ton of like time and action. And we have a lot more time and availability to be able to do more now. With Doe Patrol to grow Doe Patrol. We haven't necessarily had a ton of that the first couple years. You were working full time at that time. I was busier at my shop, but every single year we've just said, all right, God, where do you want it to go? This has been yours from the beginning. We'll let it continue to be yours and we'll leave it in your hands. So we have a few different visions for where it could go, what direction it could go, whether it's, the expansion to the east side. That's my first vision. The secondary would be like, if my end all dream would be when I retire would be literally just to go all over the country and teach people how to do what we just did all over the country. Like when I retire, that's what I would love nothing more to do. Teach people how to process deer and do it all over the place. We just fly all over and, do seminars at churches or whatever to teach people how to do this and then give them the template. Right. But that's a really long ways away. Right. So that to me feels like it's always out of reach, but every year I've felt like what we accomplished is out of reach. So that's why I just say we just leave it to God and we're going to kind of keep our dreams out there. And we'll see what direction it goes. So whether it goes we're going to have all these locations that we implement, or we're able to go and teach people those things. The other, which those could both be tied together, right? That could be one dream. The other one, which we've kind of been toying around with, is actually starting a 501c3 and being the helper company to Michigan Outdoorsmen Against Hunger. So we'll raise the funds to bridge the gap for processors. So now processors are paid the adequate amount to process their deer. So because at the end of the day, not everybody wants to give their time, their resources, or their money. Those are three things that God calls us to do, right? To give your time, your resources, and your money.
Yeah.
So there's people that don't want to give any of those. Time's valuable, money's tangible, and resources, I don't have many, so why would I give them away? Right? That's how most people live life. So if we're able to start a company that can raise the funds to bridge the gap between Michigan Outdoorsmen Against Hunger and processors, every processor in the state of Michigan would be able to donate deer, and they would take every single one because they would get the same amount of money for a donated deer as they would a personal deer, somebody just bringing in for their own personal gain.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a secondary. We'll see if it ends up going that way.
Well, if you're on the same trajectory that you're on now, sky's the limit.
We'll see.
So cool, guys. I love what you're doing, the impact that you're having, the growth that you're having. Just it's such a cool thing. So we appreciate you guys and what you're doing. Where can the people find you?
They can find us on Instagram and on Facebook. And our website is doepatrolwestmichigan.com. That will also lead you to all the things. Our merch is on there. We usually post stuff about our event on there, which our event happened early December. So we do that once a year. But we'll also try to do a better job of posting about like if Hunt to Heal has an event or if Sports Persons has an event. That way you can learn more about who you're supporting when you support us as well.
Kelly designed the website this year. So that was relatively new to us. So we were navigating that this year as it was new, right? There's been so many new things. Every year there's a first. So next year, the plan is to be after every processing night, there's always going to be an ongoing updated tally of how many deer we've processed, how much meat has been donated. And with that, being able to see when we have donate nights, because we've actually had like people will just call me and they're like, hey, I want to come and help process, but I live in Lansing. Literally, there's a guy from Lansing who wants to come and help process, but his job doesn't allow him to come on a weeknight. So he would be able to actually just follow it on our website to see, oh, okay, there's the processing time. I can come that day. Because the first 3 years, it was me sending 200 texts out to every one of my acquaintances, buddies, and friends and saying, who can make it tonight? We need all hands on deck. And I was sick of sending every message out. So we just posted it to our social media. And then this year we found that there's a higher desire for people that want to help. And so we need to be able to open that door up to people that don't have social media.
Well, and that'll be cool with the growth aspect. As you branch out to the east side of the state and the southwest and the north side of the state and everything, there's going to be all these hubs where guys like us that are in Lansing, it's a little, if we go whack 8 doe at the beginning of October, it's a little tricky to haul them all the way to Holland. It's an hour and a half. You're worried about spoilage and all of that jazz. So once the growth is there, the impact quadruples. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah.
I freaking love it. Well, thanks so much for hosting, guys. We really appreciate it. We're going to get you the pod bunker.
I can't wait.
That's why I didn't get too much into the personal side of things, because we do our spotlight series, and I want to peel back the layers of gear and hunting and the history and all of that stuff. But today we really, really wanted to lean into the Doe Patrol and what you guys are doing, and I'm blown away. Absolutely blown away. It exceeded my expectations. This space is super cool. So guys, make sure you go check them out. If you like what they're doing, buy the merch. Merchandise is what funds all of this and helps keep everything afloat. So make sure to support in that way. As always, we grow organically. So if you learned something, if there was something cool you guys found out of this, make sure to share the show with a friend, whether that's just subscribing or sending it to somebody. We're on Instagram at atasso.outfitters. Our link tree's there. That'll send you over to the Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, website, where we have our merch at that kind of keeps this bandwagon on the tracks. All our full videos of these podcasts are on YouTube now. And we will catch you guys on the next one live from the Pod Bunker. Have a great night.
Live from the Booty Barn.
Oh, that's true.
Booty barn.
You're so programmed.
I am.
It's
like
awesome.
a robot. It's the Booty Barn.
Live from the Booty Barn.
The booty barn.
Coming at you hot.
This is the best kind of booty barn. The other ones. Oh, he's got it on the outro.
See, that's kind of lustful to go on the back end.
I'm just so jealous. And
Zealous
just wanted
of
to be a part of you guys.
You can be a part of them.
See you guys later.